Since the dawn of time, mankind has crafted and told stories about an unspeakable evil. Whether it was telling stories to your children and family lit by campfire in ancient times, or the modern-day equivalent of movies and TV shows, it taps into a primal part of our brains, a fear of the unknown, the dangerous. We have a morbid curiosity for that which lurks in the darkness, hiding in the shadow of night. One such story, the truth of which you can decide for yourself after watching, concerns the true personification of evil in many cultures and religions throughout history, the devil. This concept has developed independently within these and has been given many different names: Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Mephistopheles, to name a few. The Christian Bible devotes only a few passages to the devil and does not describe his appearance. In Genesis, the serpent who tempts Eve is strongly associated with Satan, but many theologians think the composition of Genesis predates the concept of the devil. Passages alluding to Lucifer's fall can be found in the books of Isaiah and Ezekiel. Classical influences also played a role in the development of the Christian devil. As Christianity took root in the Roman world, early worshippers rejected pagan gods and believed them to be evil spirits. Pan, half goat and half man, was a lusty god of nature whose carnal appetites made him easy to associate with the forbidden. His goat horns and cloven hooves became synonymous with sin and would later be adopted by artists in their horrific images of the devil. Reproduced in pictures, from the great artists down to the humble village artisan, a reptilian, winged figure of damnation became the iconic devil figure. Artists like Giotto and Fra Angelico often depicted the devil in paintings of the Last Judgment. In them, a ravenous Satan is seated in the centre of hell as he gleefully chomps on the souls of sinners. Over 150 years ago, an infamous occurrence took place, which made countless people believe that the devil was walking among them, malevolent evil taking material form. It was the night of February the 8th, 1855, and heavy snowfall was falling onto the normally lush southern British counties of Devon and Dorset. Such weather would normally only last for a short while during the coldest winter months, but this particular snowfall would last for days, blanketing the large area and transforming it into a brilliant white landscape. The start of 1855 was unusually cold, with the temperatures below freezing from January through to March. Many of the area's rivers were frozen, including the Exe and the Tean. The following morning, many of the townspeople for miles around awoke to the presence of mystifying marks or prints in the fresh winter snow, with peculiar and terrifying characteristics. Within a fortnight, the story of the mysterious footprints was being reported in the local and national press. A letter was sent to the editor of the Exeter and Plymouth Gazette, describing the peculiar finding in tremendous detail. Sir, Thursday night, the 8th of February, was marked by a heavy fall of snow, followed by rain and boisterous wind from the east, and in the morning frost. The return of daylight revealed the ramblings of some most busy and mysterious animal, endowed with the power of ubiquity, as its footprints were to be seen in all sorts of unaccountable places, on the tops of houses, narrow walls, in gardens and courtyards, enclosed by high walls as well as in the open fields. The creature seems to have frolicked about through Exmouth, Littleham, Lympstone, Teignmouth, and so on. Its tracks appear more like that of a biped than a quadruped, and the steps are generally 8 inches in advance of each other and are alternate like the steps of a man. The impression of the foot closely resembles that of a donkey's shoe, and measures from 1.5 inches to, in some cases, 2.5 inches across, here and there appearing as if the foot was cleft, but the impression of the shoe was continuous and perfect. The creature seems to have advanced to the doors of several houses, and then to have retraced its steps, but no one is able to discern the starting or resting point of this mysterious visitor. Everyone is wondering, but no one is able to explain the mystery. The poor are full of superstition, and consider it little short of a visit from old Satan or some of his imps. The strange footprints were unbroken, and stretched for nearly 100 miles across the 2 counties. Interestingly, they were all alleged to have appeared over a 6-hour period, and whatever made them would have had to have been moving at speeds up to 17 miles per hour. The trail was even reported to lead into and exit pipes, which were sometimes as narrow as 4 inches across. With the shape of the marks so resembling the devil's described cloven hooves, many were quick to ascribe the phenomenon to the Prince of Darkness. This was all the more sinister in conjunction with the myriad of marks to and from doorsteps and circling homes and churches, creating rife speculation that he was combing the countryside for sinners. Many at the time, and even to this day, believed that this phenomenon was the work of the devil. However, there have been other competing theories circulating, which attempt to provide a logical explanation for the strange events. The more skeptical individuals in the wider community propose a simple explanation that some of these footprints were the result of hoaxes. They point to the stark difference in patterns between some of the markings, with some being dense and erratic, and others being in straight, up and down paths. The latter type, it is claimed, were fakes. One author even went so far as to suggest that the marks found in the town of Topsham were made as part of a protest related to the local church. However, in such a time when widespread communication was nowhere near as prevalent as it is today, it's difficult to believe that a group of individuals could orchestrate a combined conspiracy to carry out these hoaxes over such a large area. In addition, this particular hoax theory does not claim to account for all of the footprints in question, just a subset. This still leaves the majority of prints unaccounted for. Others have suggested a more natural theory that several types of animals were potential sources, including cats, hares, mice and badgers. Donkeys and horses were considered, but could not account for any rooftop prints. One Reverend G.M. Musgrave told his congregation at the time that it was a kangaroo that had escaped from a private zoo in Exmouth. Birds have often been suggested too, especially as flight would account for the gaps in prints. In all instances, there are anomalies that preclude each species, whether it's that the hoof prints do not match an animal's tread, that the animal must have been a biped, or that it cannot fly. It should be noted though, that in relation to the shapes, there was a thaw on the same night that might have disfigured the original formations. Alternative theories outside of this range from being caused by the escape of an experimental balloon leaving marks from its mooring shackles, to mass hysteria, and even being attributed by some to cryptids or aliens. However, none of these have been found to carry any tangible merit. Welsh researcher and historian Mike Dash is one of the leading writers on this subject, having published a paper entitled The Devil's Hoof Marks to the Fortean Times in 1994. The paper is available for free and is an incredibly interesting read, so if you would like to feed your curiosity further, I would strongly recommend it. In one paragraph, he concludes that none of the posited theories, with the sole exception of supernatural intervention, could account for all of the marks on their own, primarily due to the number of markings, the unusual spread, and the short time span. Instead, he suggests that it might have been due to a combination of several different factors, many of which have already been covered earlier. To summarise, there is no concrete explanation to this day, and there likely never will be, as we have never seen its like since. Whether these markings were caused by a large group of local animals or pranksters, or stemming from a visit from Lucifer himself, is unclear. However, it does seem as though the timing and breadth of this phenomenon is the one confounding factor which clouds logical thinking. How could it be possible for a group of pranksters to collaborate with such clinical precision during a time when communication channels were poor at the best of times, let alone during an extended period of snow? Is it likely that a collective of animals could create markings so similar to a hooved creature that the two can be confused? The lack of evidence and witnesses outside of the markings themselves means that it's highly unlikely, if not impossible, that we will ever know the true answer. Therefore, as much as our logical minds would struggle with the notion, we can never rule out the possibility that it was Satan who wandered Devon and Dorset on that fateful February night.